going to start with the structure that I'm thinking of for this episode and subsequent episodes. And I really want everybody to see.
Oh my God, that's
audio at some point, but I am wearing this like mod velvet green and blue dress
so good,
fur-lined cuffs, and I'm thinking that one of my projects for this visual podcast is to like wear something fun each time.
Obsessed.
And my mom and Erin Mosby have joined us, which
Yay!
is making me so happy. I love both of you so much.
So good. We have an audience. We're here.
Incredible. Thank you guys.
Not to put pressure on you two, but we're so happy you're here.
Just kidding. So we're going to start off with just a little welcome, and then we're going to do episode business, which for this episode, because it's our first one, we'll be introducing us individually, introducing us, and then what this project is and why we're doing it now, and that kind of thing. And then we'll talk about Footloose. Which, confession, this is let's start off with a confession straight off the bat.
That's right how he would want it. Yeah.
This is the first time I've watched Footloose. I've never seen it before the other night. How have I missed this movie?
I don't know. And the cast, it's like every famous person.
The cast is stacked.
I know.
All right. So let's do quick intros, name, and expertise. Dizzy, that's Mila. Mila, do you want to go first?
This is Mila. Shannon is actually why I have this cat. No, I'm so happy. Yes. Do you want to actually go first?
Sure. Okay. So I'm on the internet. I'm Dr. Shan.
Yes.
To keep that distinct from when I'm professoring in my normal job.
That's right. This has no affiliation with the
affiliation whatsoever.
Let's be clear.
Professional professor job. Yes.
That's right.
For legal reasons. Because we will be talking about politics. And Taylor Swift, and all of that gets contentious AF. So let's just put that out there. I'm a citizen right now, not acting in my professional capability. So if you're listening to this later and you're not familiar with who we are, which makes sense, my work is mainly around visual popular culture and politics. I like to really dig into especially film and television and art, but I also have a history with the theater, and I'm particularly obsessed with immersive theater as well. So visual art and politics and culture. And in my scholarly life, I have a strong focus on environmentalism, and I care deeply about the environment, but it's also a lot with everything else that's going on right now. So we're kind of talking about one battle at a time right here. So you may hear me draw lessons from my sort of environmentalism background, but I'm not going to be talking about that a lot because we have a menu
a lot to cover. Yeah.
Dr. Kim.
And luckily it's all connected, so it definitely gets woven in. Yeah, I'm so happy to be here. I am Kimberly Rose Pendleton. I have an intimacy and pleasure coaching business called Uncover, but Shannon and I met in our PhD program. And so I bring a kind of nerdy vibe to the coaching space that often isn't there. And a lot of what I'm doing is looking at a lot of what we're going to be talking about here about pleasure as resistance, pleasure as trauma healing has been a huge part of my work. I work with a lot of women who are recovering from religious trauma, in particular, religious repression, shame-based kind of guilt, especially around pleasure and sex and intimacy and like things feeling good. So Footloose is like my personal anthem. And I think one of the things that both Shannon and I are really committed to and that we honed in our PhD program is paying attention to the ways that products like films and books and things that are like popular culture even, like every single client of mine is reading these romantasy books about dragons and sex. It's like we are trained to pay attention to that and what else is going on in addition to just being entertained. Basically that there's like a reason certain things become popular when they do. And there's a message underneath it all. I mean, everything Pop Smart Media is doing. And then my focus being on pleasure and the ways that pleasure isn't just kind of like an escapist tool, but actually is something that can be really radical and really transformative. I think, not to give it away already, but Footloose is such a great example because it's like, why bother banning it if it doesn't actually make kind of a big difference? Like, why would dancing be illegal if it didn't like elicit something really powerful? And I
Right.
think that's like a huge part of Uncover that we've seen like in the years that since I've started it is that especially when you help people tap into their pleasure, they're a lot harder to control.
Yep. Yeah, this movie, I feel like
Okay,
this
I'm
was
gonna kick
such a
my
good
cat out.
such a good starting place for this. I will warn you too that Figment, one of my cats, knows how to open the door to the office. Um, so there's a chance they'll be joining us, and there won't be much that I can do to
Oh
stop
my
him. But
God, it's so funny. Yeah.
cat cameos might be part of the pleasure of this
It's true.
particular
We love
project.
furries. Bring it. Yeah.
Um, so let's talk a little bit about us and our history together as
Yes.
friends and as sort of like, I don't know. I don't want to say you're an entrepreneur. I mean, I guess I'm moving into that space a little bit, but as sort of like professionals and friends and
100%. I mean,
friends. Yeah.
are we allowed to say thought leaders? I mean, sometimes I spell it THOT, but like, I really think there's, a missing space that you're really helping to fill that I would love to also join of bringing back kind of the idea of the public intellectual. Like, of course, we have influencer as a category, which I'm fine with. And I think the only reason to denigrate that is misogynist usually, but there is something else that you taking your academic expertise and me taking mine and us creating something that like, normal people will actually get to hear without paying $200,000 to GW. It's kind of a big deal.
Challenge PW. But I need to go back just for a second to thought leader being THOT. You kind of slipped that in there, but for those who may not know, I believe THOT stands for that hoe over there. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes, that's right. And you can be
Totally makes
both in our
Yeah.
world. That's part of the power of pleasure.
Yes, I love it so much. So Kim and I, before we even met each other, each I think had several people come up to us and be like,
Oh, yeah.
"Have you two met yet? Because
I
it seems
know.
like you should know each other."
Oh,
Um,
that's so true. I love that.
so people were like shipping us as friends before we actually became
Yeah.
friends, and pretty soon on into our friendship, like a month, 2 months after we had our first coffee together, we went to Italy together to work.
We
Which
jumped.
actually, sorry, this is a space where we're going to hold grief and pleasure together. So I am going to
Fair.
name this. I don't know if you saw, but actually, the man who ran that company passed away yesterday
Whoa, no, I
from
didn't.
pancreatic cancer. So it's this really. I was having this interesting thing this morning too, where I'm like, oh, I want to talk about that, but I'm feeling grief, and I mean that's a real thing that's going on right now too. So it kind
Thank
of
you
caught me
for
off guard when I
sharing
saw it
that.
this morning.
Yeah.
So yeah, but we worked together in Florence with teenagers for a month. We lived with them in a hotel.
Oh my
Um,
God, it was so much harder than getting a PhD, you guys.
they were very, let's say, cosmopolitan, wealthy. They were
Yeah.
very wealthy,
Yes.
15-year-olds who just wanted to sneak off and get alcohol poisoning, and it was kind of terrifying as people in our younger people to try to keep that
Yeah.
from happening.
Yeah.
Uh, so anyway, so we went to Italy together to work, and that became a great justification for why we were as close as we were as quickly as we were.
Totally.
And then since then, we've had a lot of enterprises together. So while we were still finishing our PhDs, we started this thing along with our friend Chris Mayer called Little Academy, which was a spinoff of his Little Salon project, where we held little workshops that focused on making cultural theory fun and accessible and combining pleasure and deep thought. Um, that business model wasn't sustainable.
It's true. That was before I knew anything about running a business. So we accidentally started a nonprofit. We were trying to make a profit. I actually really thought Little Academy was going to make like all of my friends rich. But not true. But what it did
That
do, not yet. Yeah, it's the long game. Just keep watching. But, the concept of taking what we were teaching, this was at least like the way we were thinking about it. It was like, what if I could teach like intro to women's studies and Shannon could teach intro to art history, like at a bar over cocktails, and we could make it fun. I actually tried to call it summer school at first, and all our friends were like, nobody wants to go to summer school. Like that only sounds fun to you. Like, no, no, no. But it's such like an amazing thing to just see. We were like getting here all along. And I think that it's been so refreshing and fun to see people respond more and more to this academic work being woven into both of our, is it fair to call them brands? I know that's like sort of cheapening, but really that is what it is. And I feel like, on my end, the more I've been sharing lately about like the history of evangelicals rising to power in US politics and purity culture and why this is like actually something that tracing historically is important and interesting and terrifying, with a dash of like, history about Mary Magdalene, history about
I've been
like
loving.
slut shaming throughout religious history. And I've been so inspired. And obviously, Shan is doing like an even deeper dive on this. And I feel like it's been so refreshing that people care about that. We actually are hungry for information. I think that it's in a way a good time, and all the things that we had meant to do all along kind of just feel like, well, maybe the time is now because democracy seems like it's like going bye-bye. Like, should we do something about that? So this is an attempt at that.
Well articulated. That was incredible. Yeah, I think to sort of build on the brilliant thing you just said, I think that we've been feeling a lot of grief
Yeah.
about politics and the state of the
Yeah.
world. And I think that there are a lot of people who probably are just looking for tools to get
Yeah.
through and to try to do as much as they can with the skills they have to help.
Right.
And so I think that for a lot of us, our impulse is to try to put the information that we know out there for free, not in journals,
Yeah.
not behind basically paywalled classrooms. It's kind of what
Literally.
university is, right?
Yes.
But actually, like, put it on the internet and hope that people care, and maybe it will reach
Yes.
other people who can also use that information and that kind of thing. So for me, I have like a little list of what I hope this project will do, and I would
Yes.
love for you to amend, revise. But for me, I hope that this project will help build a community that uses pleasure to call in the creation of a more just and resilient world. Because this is us applying our tools to help us get through trauma, to help us, think about a better world. This is kind of putting our money where our mouth is in a lot
Yeah.
of different ways. Yeah. Honor not just our expertises, but the important voices we're already in conversation with, which our notions of pleasure come a lot from Black scholars and activists, especially Black women scholars and activists, and the queer community and the Indigenous community. So I posted something the other day, a tweet I'd seen about white women are trying to use.
Right.
They said paper clips, but I think they meant safety pins. I'm not sure.
Oh,
But
yeah. Either we
but like,
didn't get the paperclip memo or
no, I don't know.
yeah.
I don't know. I missed
Yeah.
that one.
But no, totally. Those like teeny tiny, yeah, like a bracelet, a pin, like sharing the right meme instead of actually like hopefully honoring the lineage of this scholarship and school of thought.
Yeah, because there is a type of pleasure which people use to check out. Check
Right.
out of their
Right.
lives, check out of politics, check out of the hard things, numb
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah.
And I feel like if we've learned anything, right, pleasure is a tool. Pleasure, okay, in engineering school, we talk about dual use,
Mm.
which is this idea that you can develop these amazing things that can be used for clean energy or to blow things up, right? Like nuclear
100%.
technology is so dual use. And
Yes.
pleasure is kind of dual use. right?
100%.
So it can numb us, but it can also call us more deeply into the current moment, into community with others, into knowing ourselves better, into envisioning a better world and having the energy for activism, that kind of thing. We can use pleasure as a tool.
100%, especially, I would say, speaking of dual use, in an age of AI and like more and more kind of like humanness being moved away from, there's probably a much more elegant way to say that. I would say that pleasure is like one of the tools we have to literally come back to our senses and come back to the body. So even as simple as like, what do I feel and taste and touch and see and hear right now, which may seem so silly and may seem so simple, but like the more pleasure is like jolting us back into the humanness of ourselves. I think in this moment, like the humanities really need that because what we're up against is like more and more robot. And I think that like that can be a tool. We might get to that too. Maybe we'll review the Terminator. But like first, I feel like there is just this acknowledgement that pleasure is a way to be present that can be a really foundational piece of the puzzle.
And can help heal trauma, right? Like a lot of therapies are based on dropping back into your body, feeling
Totally.
your feelings. Where do those feelings live? That kind of thing,
Right.
right?
Right.
And Footloose is about embodiment. That was one
Yeah,
of the, it's not just about dancing, it's about embodiment. I can't wait to talk about that.
totally.
Um, and then finally, the last two things I have on my list are engage with people of various expertises, broadly defined. I think that Kim and I would both probably say that there's definitely value in the kind of expertise that comes with a PhD, but it is not the only type of expertise
Yes.
by far.
Yes.
And so we want to be talking to experts of all kinds
Yes.
in different ways. So that will happen probably after episode 3 or 4, after we get a sense of rhythm. And then finally, I'm hoping that this can be a space for dialogue. So that's
Yes.
one of the reasons we wanted to do this live too.
Yeah.
Is at a certain point when we start talking about the movie, we'll do our gut reactions to the movie. And we're
Yeah.
hoping that won't just be us, but also
Right.
sounding off in the comments as well about what
Yes.
they thought. Or while we're analyzing, if people have good ideas, we want this to be a larger dialogue. So that's why we're doing it live. Kim, do you have anything you want to add to that?
I would say this is like woven through everything you said, but maybe just to explicitly name it too. I think one of the things that both of us are committed to is not stopping and like not burning out and not losing hope. And it's easy for me to look around and see how we could. It's easy for me to see why that would be useful, like for people, if we all, everyone who cared, everyone who did feel like maybe something is wrong, did check out and tended to our own little garden only and like tried to just like focus in on surviving. I feel like one of the overarching goals that we have is to really empower both ourselves and our whole community and everybody listening with like some tools for staying in the game. And it doesn't mean that you can't stop and rest and actually like stop and have fun and stop and watch a movie. It's all part of it. But I do feel like part of the thing here is showing that there is resistance woven into everything and we can pull it out and we can talk about it and we can build community around it together, to your point, Shan, and like really sustain the momentum and the energy that might otherwise fade in the face of such dire like realities around us.
And this is theory that's been drawn from, again, activists of color. I study eco grief a lot in the environmental community, and one common theme that runs through it is, there's that quote about how during the AIDS crisis, it was like they would protest, they would bury their friends in the morning, protest in the afternoon, and dance at night, right?
Yeah.
So that these things exist together and
Right.
that you are tapping into the joy that helps you remember what you're fighting for and who you're
Yeah.
fighting for, the people around you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping to do here, and building community is a big part of that. So, yay! Okay, I'm going back and forth about this. I'll be transparent.
Great.
I kind of want to spend 5 minutes talking about Life of a Showgirl because I think it would be
Yes.
fun each week, if we just take 5 minutes and talk about something in the news that's resonating with us. I
I think
realized one of the
so.
other things that we could talk about is the people in the inflatable suits in the protests.
Yeah.
Maybe that will be our resonance next week, and we can talk
Okay,
about it a
I
little
love
bit more.
that. Yeah.
Just a heads up, I think we might have slightly differing opinions about Life of a Showgirl too.
I mean, fair. I feel like
Yeah.
it's very divisive.
Yes, but what was your reaction to that album, and what has your reaction to the reaction been,
Oh, yeah.
especially through a, like, pleasure is political lens?
Yeah, well, even more specifically through a purity culture lens, it's been really
Yeah.
interesting to see for people who are like deep in Swiftie land, which I am, there is kind of a feeling of like she's finally getting laid. Like, to be so honest. And like I think
Oh,
that for so long it to have been like ultimate good girl performance, which I feel like a lot of us, a lot of my clients, a lot of people who are detoxing from especially evangelical culture just so dramatically understand the moment of I'm now like singing about sex just has felt really amazing. And I think that busting out of purity culture isn't the framework necessarily that I would assume she's thinking of it like for herself, but it's been for me and for some of my clients like the anthem of like orgasms after oppression.
it's so specifically, like, pointed at you and what you do. I think it's so
I
interesting.
know, I agree, which is not to say that I don't see a lot of the criticism, and I think that my take, which is, like, deeply, biased, I'm, like, deeply committed, my close friend, personal Taylor Swift, I don't think is having, like, an alt-right moment herself, but I think what is undeniable is that, like, fascism has an aesthetic that is inescapable, you know, like, some of what I've been seeing, I think,
Yeah.
is like Lana Del Rey on the cover of Vogue in like a 50s hairstyle with like gloves and like a pink dress. I don't think Taylor or Lana personally like even are like I think I've decided to go down the alt-right pipeline. I mean, maybe I could be wrong, but like that's just like in a way to me even less of a interesting question, but more of this is how this is the environment we're all in right now. And this idea that I don't know. We can see it everywhere. I feel like that's been some of the most interesting stuff for me learning about Germany in the 40s or like different moments in history where it's like, ooh, like, yeah, all the clothes got like sharper and like all the like these traditional German values got harkened back to. And there were a lot of like posters of moms with all these kids. And I think just such a reminder. I mean, I know a lot of people who fall in love and then want to have babies. I think that's okay. It's kind of not news. But I think it is but I think it is completely fair to be like, in a certain backdrop with a certain tone and with a certain sphere of influence, you know, it can have a lot more being said alongside it, in part because of like everything else that's going on. Whether or not I think she's like secretly a Trump supporter or not seems to be like kind of less interesting to me. But that's also because I'm deeply, deeply biased.
Yeah, it's interesting. I actually do think we kind of feel similarly about this. I think that she wrote this album. Oh, one thing I want to add. If you're
Yeah.
watching and you have thoughts on Life
Yeah,
of the
yeah, yeah.
Showgirl too, we're going to wrap
Yeah.
up this conversation in just a couple of minutes, but
Yeah.
I'm super curious what other people have thought too. And I've been out
Yeah.
of the country, so I haven't been able to call some of my girlies and ask them what they think. So I'm
Yeah.
curious if people want to comment about it. But I someone described it I saw online as if you listen with your ears, it's a great album. If you
Yeah.
listen with your brain, yikes, right? Um, and
Fair. Really
and I
fair.
think it's a moment of this was written in a very different time, even though it was only written a year ago,
I
right?
think that's fair. I actually think that's really fair. Yeah.
And I think some of this stuff would still come across poorly even if we were living in an alternate timeline, like
Yeah.
the line about, I think it would be we don't have time to get into this right now. We could do a whole other episode about this, I think.
I
But
am
her relationship with
available. I I could do her whole discography.
I just want to make, so we can maybe put a pin in some of this stuff, but I think that the way she relates to wealth and pleasure on this album is also really interesting. And I do think lines, I would give up all my Chanel for someone to trust, just kidding.
Just kidding.
Feels like, right now, right?
I think she's trying to be Elizabeth Taylor, but I'm with you.
But it's a little like, okay.
Totally.
I do wish somebody had pulled her aside and been like, is this really what you want to?
Is this the moment?
Yeah.
I know. I mean, it is so interesting because I know this is such a classic white feminist thing to say, but I just don't hear us asking that question of men who sing about buying cars or watches or whatever men like. I don't know. I don't really listen to them, but it does seem like there's just an assumption, and like relatability is not something we require necessarily of like famous musician men. I'm not like, oh my God, Usher. You don't seem like me. I would say
though, I feel like her brand is partially to be relatable, right? And I think she's made a foray into politics, and this feels like a retreat from politics, which maybe that feels like not great timing to retreat from politics.
We need you. Don't go anywhere. Get back here.
But at the same time I hear that, and I think that that's right too, right? Like there's definitely a double standard there as well, but it is like, no, not now, not now.
Not now. Fair.
But the reason I wanted to bring it up, and maybe also leads into Footloose and how we're going to analyze it as well, is how do I put this in a politic way, Kim? The field that we come from, which I love dearly, American Studies, does have a tendency to find what is wrong in everything.
Fair.
That's not exactly what I want to say. That's not what I want to say. It is a discipline that is based in critique, and there is absolutely a place for that, and it's necessary to critique. But I think there can be a sense, not just in American Studies, but in academic circles, that allowing yourself to feel pleasure around things, even as you critique them, makes it less serious. Now, I'm not like, now there's an economic component to this too, right? Like there are certain moments where, well, if you're getting pleasure from something and you're putting money in somebody's pocket who's going to turn around and use it to hurt other people, like
maybe we think about that. Yeah.
Maybe we think about the material consequences of that. But part of what we want to do here is think deeply about these movies while engaging our critical thinking skills and also allowing ourselves to feel pleasure in things that are not actively harming others, obviously, and feel joy in critique as well. That like seriousness and suffering are not prerequisites for thinking about something deeply.
Yeah, I really love that. I mean, it's so interesting too, because I left that world and it's been a little while since I thought about that part, because now in pleasure work, it's kind of like just assumed that, like, of course, like if we're going to be doing like this deep trauma work, it's like easier to do it if you're like on a retreat somewhere beautiful where someone's feeding you and you don't have to worry about that stuff. There are plenty of issues. They could use a little more academic thought. But like it's almost like, oh, right, remembering like the layers of shame that come from like this place that I've once been that feel frankly a lot like church.
And I think that there is maybe actually sort of one of the things we're doing here that I didn't think about a little bit is like, oh, you're getting peanut butter in my chocolate. You're getting chocolate in my peanut butter here, right? I mean, this kind of, like academic.
Which is what they need. Like, you're welcome, world, because that is, I mean, coaches, pick up a book. But also, I think like academics have a glass of champagne.
Take a nap. Yeah. Put on some fuzzy slippers. Yeah.
Totally. I remember an advisor joking, but like kind of not. It was funny because it had that kernel of truth, joking like, I had come back tan from the summer, probably the summer I was working with you in Italy, and him being like, "You need to, like, get rid of that. It's gonna look like you weren't spending all summer in the library." And I remember thinking like, "Oh my god, I, like, learned so much in that summer. I divorced somebody. I got a lot done." But still, it was like, "You were not productive." If you came back tan, it looks like you might have had fun. It looks like you might have been on vacation. You're, like, almost in trouble.
Yes, I remember not putting on makeup purposefully to go to class and not doing my hair because I didn't want it to look like I had time to put on makeup and do my hair, right? Because time spent doing
Yeah.
that was time not spent reading and writing.
So interesting. And then in terms of the peanut butter side of this all, I feel like what I'm seeing in the coaching world, which I won't talk about like for hours and hours, but I could, are people being so kind of mirroring the American public, it feels like, with this like deep suspicion and skepticism of anything intellectual, anything expertise, like almost afraid of like what would happen if we like have more conversations like that. So yeah, let's mix because we are needed. We need each other.
Always. All right. Should we move on to talking about
Oh
Footloose?
my God, yes. Okay, so it was
So
your first time. Can we just start with like what you thought?
yeah. So what I propose is for each episode we start with gut reactions of the film, which is
Yeah.
how I always start discussions of movies in class, which is like
Yeah.
just a moment about whether we liked it, silly
Yeah.
things we noticed, that kind of thing. And again,
Yeah.
if people have seen Footloose and have things they want to say about it,
Yeah.
feel free to drop it in the comments. We love that. Okay, we've already talked about the fact that this movie is an incredible first choice, I think, for this podcast.
Could not agree more.
I'm so interested to hear you talk about the function of desire in this movie because
Yeah.
essentially the role of female desire, because it seems to be both celebrated and shamed at the same time, like
Totally.
almost in the same breath, right?
Yeah.
Oftentimes, which is so, so interesting.
Yeah.
Um, okay, this is a totally silly thing, but I love the tell, don't show school of is he hot that's happening in this movie. Which I needed. I needed those female characters to be like, this guy is hot because that haircut.
Uh-huh.
Kevin
Uh-huh.
Bacon, handsome man. That haircut. I was like, he looks like a baby chick a little bit. So,
With
like,
his, like, little tie. No, yeah, it was very helpful to know, like, "Oh, this is gonna be the troublemaker. He looks like he would lead the band."
yeah, which is great. It made me
Yeah,
so happy.
yeah.
It also made me think, the meme like this is the future liberals want,
Oh,
right? This almost at points feels like this is the future I'm going to name Christian nationalists want,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Where unsanctioned behavior that is disapproved of by a
yeah.
specific kind of church is punished not only by the church, but we also see people get in trouble at their school,
Well,
at their job.
family.
It affects every part of life. That policing of religious boundaries.
Yeah.
And heaven help you if you step outside of that, like encompassing community. Um, Okay, there were so many parts of this movie, especially the flashback montage and the solo gymnastics dance in the factory.
There were multiple. Remember when he was chatting with his buddy and they're doing gymnastics together? I was like, adorable. Do men do this? I really hope so.
There's actually a lot of really great male friendship stuff
There
in this movie
is.
without gay panic, which
I
for the time is also
I
really
know.
cool, I think.
I
Um,
agree. Yeah. And like a dash of female friendship, it's like less. Yeah.
yeah, but for this time period,
Yeah.
feels almost progressive.
I agree with that. I do. And
Phenomenal.
I think even to your point, I mean, actually, I should have done some research on this, but I'd be interested to know. It's like either way, like he was a skinny, smaller man up against Chuck, who was this more like Biff, like big, kind of traditional. So I feel like already, I mean, I guess there's a movie about fucking dancing. So I guess already there was like an element of like, it's not the man you thought you'd be like considering dangerous, probably.
You know what I just realized we didn't do, Kim, which we should do every episode, and I skipped it on my run of show. Maybe we take a pause here quickly to describe the plot of the movie quickly.
Oh, I love
For
that.
those who haven't seen it,
Yes.
because I would like this to be a place where people can come if they've seen the
Even if
movie
they
or not
haven't
seen the
done
movie.
their reading.
Yeah.
Yes, I
And there
agree.
might be light spoilers. It might be heavier for things like Footloose. We'll try to name if we're going to be spoilery, but we're going to talk about the plot of Footloose, but I don't think it would compromise your experience of watching it if
I
you were to
agree with
watch
that.
it.
Yeah,
Kind of make it more
completely.
fun.
Yeah.
But the things that we're talking about, we'll try to make it also so that even if you haven't seen the movie, you can get something out of our analysis of it.
Yeah.
So,
Well, in this case, you can just turn on the news and it's very
yes.
similar.
Wah, wah.
Yeah. But no, I love that. I mean, actually, it's your profession. Can you do the summary? I feel like this is like probably your forte, not mine.
Sure. I'll do the best I can. My problem is being long-winded, but I'll try to keep it
Mm,
short.
mm.
So, Footloose is about a boy named Ren, played by Kevin Bacon, who moves from the big city of Chicago, which is a big city, but the way they talk about
It could have been
like the
hell.
of the
Yeah. He
yes,
moves from the
exactly,
red light
exactly.
district of Amsterdam. Yeah.
Some hellish planet named the big
Yeah.
city, which again, you can just turn on the news. This rhetoric is happening
Yeah,
right now and
literally.
being
Yeah.
used to, anyway, we'll get to that in a minute. So
Yeah.
he moves to this small town, which is in Utah, though I don't know that they ever named that.
Yeah. Actually,
So
I
with
think you're right.
Christians, not Mormons. So that's another thing.
Yeah.
I looked up where it was because it looks like my backyard in Colorado. Like it
Mhm.
looks like it could have been filmed in my area, but it was Utah.
Yeah.
So he encounters and has a tension with Ariel, who is, of course, the preacher's daughter, and
Preacher's
is,
daughter.
of course, a wild
Yeah.
card, the wild child. But she's dating Chuck, who's this stereotypical rom-com jerk, right? Just like an
Yes.
absolute jerk who drives a truck and beats people up and is bad. So a lot of the movie's tension revolves around will Ariel get together with Ren? And also, Ren thinks that a lot of things in the town could be better if they allowed dancing. So there's crossing state lines to dance.
Yeah.
There's teaching people how to dance. And then eventually there is Ren leading a campaign to allow the school to have a high school prom just over the town border
Yeah.
because dancing is illegal in the town. It's a law on the books that you can't dance, which, by the way, like, there are lots of laws like that. When I lived in New York City in the early 2000s, only places that were officially licensed as dance halls could allow dancing.
Wow.
So if you started to
Wow.
dance in a bar or something, not that I would, but if
Ah!
you were a person who had fun, they would tell you to stop.
Shame and scandal. Oh my God. I remember when I was applying to colleges getting a pamphlet from Baylor, which is a Christian school in Texas in Waco, and they were proudly explaining that dancing was now allowed. And I do remember thinking like, okay, this is where we're at.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So it's important to know that at the end of the movie, and I'm going to talk, this is what happens at the end of the movie, but
Yes.
the way they get people to allow them to do this is they bring the Bible into it and go to a town meeting. And Ren uses verses from the Bible to talk about how dancing is actually can be celebration and has been important to humans from the beginning of time. And so they have their dance. And this leads me to one of my last gut reactions to this, which is that last dance scene is glorious.
Yeah.
The amount of glitter that is used,
What?
wherever they filmed that, they are still cleaning up glitter, unless they burned the building down.
Oh my God. Yes.
I have never seen so much glitter in my entire life. It was delightful. All right, so Kim, what were your gut reactions?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, first of all, my gut reaction was like congratulating us on this choice of our first movie and just being like, oh my God, it's so good. And I had seen it before, but it had also been a while. So I had like the basics, but it was so just delightful to get back into it. And I think a major gut reaction was just being so entertained. but with a dash of like, oh, it doesn't feel as fictional anymore. And I knew that would be like part of the point of this. I think there is a reason we started this now and not 4 years ago when we like could have and liked each other then. And Substack maybe couldn't have gone live yet, but like we would have found a way.
Right.
And I think it's like, okay, a gut reaction of, I would say that there's in there a little bit of like fear, to be so honest, because in the movies, Kevin Bacon can win. And sometimes I wonder because the direction that we're going is a lot more like everyone has to do what we say, and what we say is actually really strict. And it's not enough that it's just going to be, I don't dance. It's going to be, you don't dance. In fact, maybe it's illegal to dance. In fact, maybe if you dance, you're kicked out or worse.
You
And
lose
so
your
there's a
job.
little, yeah, so there's like a little bit of, oh, but followed by, thank God, this is the way we talk about it. I think that the way dancing is a stand-in, well, not even a literal translation of being in your body, being in your joy, being in your like desire, and transmuting, not to like get too far ahead of things, but this female character, Ariel, basically has a death wish and is trying to die every few seconds. And so it's like, take that energy and move it into pleasure instead. And that part felt so powerful. And it doesn't take a lot to make me cry, but I was tearing up a little.
Yeah. So Ariel twice in this movie puts herself in hair-raising physical situations. At one point, she's got her feet in two different cars and a truck is racing toward them, and she doesn't seem to be making any move to protect her own life. Another time, she stands in front of a train that's an oncoming train and screams at it, which, by the way, is a reference to Cabaret. She says, I saw a movie recently where they went next to the train and they screamed, "That's Cabaret." Which I think we should cover in
Oh,
a couple of weeks, actually. I think we
oh
should
my
Practical Magic and then
God.
Cabaret.
Oh
We
my
could talk
God,
about that
of
more.
course. And
That's
I
what
was
I thought.
realizing we have to do Chocolat. And then I'm like kind
Yes.
of serious about the Terminator. No, that is such a good tip. That's so profound. And I think my take, especially like coming from a oppressive religious community that often made me want to scream and or die, was yeah, this is such like a great way of conveying how it feels to be trapped in this place. There's another line when she's talking to her bestie, Sarah Jessica Parker,
I know.
about you want to get out of here so bad, you have the bus schedule memorized. And it's like, okay, we're trying to really, really convey that even as much as for a little bit she's defending the status quo, if not through her dad, through her boyfriend, she is like, this is killing me. And I'm so frustrated. I am so repressed. I can only scream at the train. I can only stare at the face of this Mack truck about to come hit me. And I mean, and then dancing saves her.
Because I think, okay, so do you mind if I kind of transition us into my
Yeah.
ideology decoder ring really quickly?
Yes,
Because I
please.
want to talk about what the problem in this movie is and what the solution
Yeah,
is.
great.
And I'm thinking in my film classes, I use this little ideology, like the ideology
Yes.
list of questions to really get at the politics of the film. And I'd love to kind of keep using it here because what I would also love is if people start joining in and answering the questions with us too.
Ooh, yes.
But I always ask what is good, what is bad in this
Yeah.
movie? Like, what are the things that are considered good or bad morally? What are the things that cause problems or, that kind of thing? And then what are the problems and what are the solutions? Because once you know those things,
Yeah.
then you can get to the ethics of the film, right?
And can
So
I ask, maybe this is such an obvious question, but like, do you mean in the world of the town, or do you mean like what the film is trying to say? Because it seems pretty obvious we're supposed to root for Kevin Bacon and we're supposed to actually think the Christians are crazy.
what the film is trying to say. So
Like makes it even more of like a, ooh, like this is spicy
it
because we
is
are actually
spicy.
like, and this is like a conservative moment. And it's like
Yes.
coming out to be like, almost like, look how insane these people are.
Yeah.
Okay, keep going.
Was Reagan president when this came out? I'm
I
curious
think
about that.
so. And if
I'll
not,
double check
even the
that.
Democrats are on then. We're like,
Right.
Basically also Reagan. But yeah, I mean, so it's kind of a like wild move to be like, look how nutty these psychos are that won't even let this like man dance.
And yet, like, yes,
Yeah.
and yet, Ariel's father, the Reverend in this movie, who's played by John Lithgow, again, this cast is incredible,
It's insane.
um, is for a second I was like, is his name Ren or Reb? Because is it like rebel?
Mhm.
But it is Ren and Reverend. Like there's
Yeah.
something interesting
Yeah.
there.
Good point. I didn't think about that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And they become like substitute fathers, and but like by the end, it's like a substitute
Yeah.
father who left and a son who died that Ren is replacing. But
Returns. Yeah.
he is not a good guy.
Yeah.
But the movie presents him as redeemable, which
Yeah.
is a problem in that he hits his daughter at one point too, which is the
Yeah.
domestic abuse in here was also kind of difficult
Yeah.
to encompass.
Yeah.
But he is able to change his mind, be
Yeah.
reasoned with.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a really interesting thing. So
Yeah, it
so
is. Yeah.
that gets to good and bad, right? So
Mhm. Yeah.
so for me, the good was confusing at first
Yeah.
because I was like, is this movie equating pleasure and danger?
Right.
Right. Well, kind of advocating for pleasure. But the more I watched, the more I thought about it. I think this movie is equating repressed pleasure and danger. Right.
Yeah.
Because the dancing at the end is a different pleasure than Ariel straddling two cars,
Right.
you know.
Right.
That is coming out because she
Yeah.
does have a healthy outlet, is what the film seems to be saying.
And there's even maybe a deeper or not deeper, but like further back in the film's own timeline we could go because do you remember the rules start after kids die in a car
Yes.
crash? So it's also like
Yes.
unprocessed grief is dangerous because it's like led to this domino effect of, okay, no fun. Fun must have been the danger when it's also like you've never grieved this.
Right. Right. And I think the mom even at some point says to the reverend, like, it was a stupid accident. You can't reverse it, right?
Yeah, and you can't
And
blame yourself via shaming the next generation.
and that also seems to relate to politics as well, right? One of the things that people in the narrative community and academia study a lot is like how people reach for easy answers in a complicated world, right? It's
Absolutely.
much easier to try to find one thing to blame and crack down on it than to
Right.
think about the fact that we live in this vast
Right.
network of constantly moving pieces that we have no control over, and
Yeah.
so people often seek to exert control over the nearest thing that they feel like they can
And look
in the
for
face of that.
answers. Oh my God. I'm so grateful that you've said that. And actually, one of the things that I think is missing from some of the conversations I'm hearing, especially on the left, about Charlie Kirk, trad wives, this rightward turn, even within the New Age community, people burning their tarot cards and being like, I'm going back to church. And it's really confusing to a lot of people, but not me, because I chose to become an evangelical in college. It's way easier of a story if it's like you grew up and then saw the light and then left. It's like so much worse. But I was looking for answers. And I think that that's what I'm seeing, that sense of safety, that sense of structure. I was like, this theology that I'm really bad and actually everyone's really bad, this kinky shit actually maps really nicely onto the anxieties that I already had inherited from late stage capitalist collapse. And I think that's what we're seeing. People are just like, oh, do you have a rule book? Literally, I'll take it. I
Right.
never needed it more. Thank you.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Oof. So good is finding healthy avenues for pleasure, which
Yeah.
again, this was the perfect movie for us to start with.
Totally.
And bad, I think, is like rigidity
Yeah.
and violent reactions to people wanting to behave differently than you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And to put it sort of in another way, the problem, I think, is the high school students are losing their minds because of repressed pleasure, as well as unrealistic and unfair expectations being placed on them.
Yeah.
But what's so fascinating to me is that the solution The reverend has to care more about his community than his own authority, right?
Yeah.
That's the first thing. To stop demonizing pleasure and to recognize that he's not always right.
Yeah.
As well as that banning knowledge and connection is more dangerous than allowing it. Another thing that was a little heart-stopping about this movie is there are several sequences where they talk about banning books, and there's actually a book burning sequence as well. And he's really uncomfortable with that. That's not what he wants, right? But
Yeah.
he's not the only one who needs to sort of change here. Ren, Kevin Bacon's sort of rebel character, his solution is that he actually has to engage in mutually respecting, what's the word I'm looking for?
Learn their
Respectful conversation.
language. Yes.
And that's it. And basically, so when he goes to this town meeting with the Bible verses, I was like, he's practicing value-based communication.
Yes.
So one of the things I'm really obsessed with is the fact that studies show that when you give people more numbers and data, it actually hardens their position, their already existing position. It doesn't change their minds because people will choose their identity over changing their mind for new information. This is like so well established. But what actually changes people's minds is speaking to them the language of their values in a sincere way, right? Not in a manipulative way, not in a bullshit way, but like really being like, I know you care deeply about this and I respect that. So let's have a conversation about your values that I respect and how they fit into what I'm trying to communicate to you. And so to see this kind of actually really beautiful example of that, what he's doing is going to the conservative community that disagrees with him, talking about shared values, and then it's on the adult conservatives who can listen, the adult religious people who can listen, to actually turn around and talk to the more hardcore people in their community. Right? And to shame them into saying like, when did you decide to sit in judgment? We know that the Bible isn't supposed to, tells us not to do that, right?
Right. Oh my God. Have you ever seen Bad Bets Feast? Have we talked about that?
No, but you've told me about it so many times.
Maybe
see it. We should add that to the list too.
Yeah, it'll make you hungry. Well, maybe not you actually, but other non-vegetarians.
Perfect. Love it.
Yeah, that's so good. And I love what you're saying about, really they both are invited to think about the collective in like a bigger way, because at first I think we're supposed to understand Ren is just like, I'm just trying to dance. I'm just trying to like be myself and have fun. I dance in Chicago, can't dance here. Like, okay. But then it becomes like, in a way, like this is going to help this whole town heal. And I'm willing to take that on. I'm willing to do that. And then I love what you're saying about the Reverend being like, okay, I'm willing to look and see where has my own grief calcified, my own fear. It's like I couldn't control life enough to protect my kid. Maybe I can control life enough to protect these people, even if it's like, no, thank you. You kind of have like a softening if you think about it that way. In this way of even that opening scene where we're meeting the Reverend, he's going like, I don't want to stand before God and have failed all of you. Like, I could be lonely in heaven because of all you sinners. But kind of like a version of like, I have to do my part because I care. We can see how problematic that is, but it's almost the true version of it by the end, where he's like, oh yeah, let me see myself as part of a whole. And by doing my own work and healing is going to help me actually do a better job of creating the kind of community that they need.
Amazing. I am looking at the clock. One of our particular dangers, I think, love, right, is we can talk to each other for...
It's true. Stay tuned for our 6 hours of Sonic Lives.
So we're going to try to keep these to around an hour. And so here's what I propose. In good pedagogical practice, you would end a discussion by re-articulating the most important points from that discussion.
I need to do that over coaching calls.
There you go. Perfect. Yeah. in future weeks, I would love for both us and people who join us to tell us about one thing that gave them pleasure to help them sustain themselves and to
Yeah.
double down on their commitments to their community and justice. So that I think we can start next week.
Okay.
And I think that we should end optional homework because we're professors, right? We like,
Yeah.
you know what I
No,
mean?
you gotta have
It's our
homework.
background, which is just us telling you what we're going to talk about next week, right? So if you want to watch the movie so you can talk about it with
Right.
us live, you can do that. Or in comments when we repost this later. So, okay. So what are the tools that we can take away from this movie and apply to our own lives to help us sustain ourselves through hard things, identify the dangers of fascism, and imagine and build a better world? Just like really low pressure in our own, tiny but important ways.
Yeah. Yeah. I
I
think
think
that's like, okay, go ahead.
I think the first thing that jumps out is going to be a theme of this, and it was almost the name of this project, which is fascism hates fun.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah. And fascism hates people working together and like coming together at all. So I think partly to this idea of compromise, maybe fascism hates compromise too, to be so honest, and collective action. Also dancing all
Mm.
together. I mean, it seems like embodiment itself is a tool and in this like very literal, very dramatic way.
Yes, yes, yes.
Mm,
I think
mm.
also embodiment as a way to work through big feelings is what's happening here.
Yes. Oh my
Like,
God.
I
As
love
the
that she's
parents of
explaining
2
this.
kids.
Right,
Yes.
right. Yeah.
Go dance. Dance
Yes,
it out.
exactly. Feel your feelings. And
Yeah.
my kiddo this morning, he was presenting his travel journal in front of the class today, and he was really nervous. And so we were actually doing like, where do you feel it in your body? Let's breathe into that area. Let's move around. Let's tighten all our muscles and then
Yes.
release them, right? And so it is really funny. But this idea
Yes.
of, and especially as somebody with chronic pain, there's lots of reasons why embodiment can be really difficult too. All sorts of
Totally.
different like dysmorphias and,
Yes.
all that is very
Yes.
real. So not for everybody at every time,
Yeah.
but as one tool,
Yeah.
embodiment, movement, community, all these things are things that help you have resilience.
Totally. Totally. I love that. And then I feel like feeling things deeply, feeling things fully, including grief, including
Yes.
fear, instead of letting either calcify and morph into weird rules.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. And fascism is about fear in a lot of different
Yeah.
ways and about wanting to control culture and fun and community.
I mean, one thing that is so interesting that I feel like this is kind of an evangelical take, like I'll just like own that. But like there is like a approximating of the way that religion, I don't know, like the Christian story, at least according to most Christians, is about like a radical person coming and shaking up everything. And most of the people in charge, including the state, like didn't like it. And so there's like an interesting parallel where like Kevin Bacon's character has some like Jesus vibes, even though like he's up against the church, which I think is really interesting.
That's amazing. With things like the protest in Portland too, right? With everybody and in different places wearing inflatable suits. When you are trying to stop people from doing stuff that
Yes.
isn't harming others, that clearly is playful and is about
Right.
community and connection and fun, you look like an asshole, right? And
Exactly.
so that
Exactly.
has been a tactic against fascists
Right.
for a long time, right? This movie also made me think about Swing Kids, which
Yes.
I did a video about it over the summer. It was so hard to watch. I don't
Mm.
necessarily know that that is something you want to tackle right now. That's a really difficult one, just in general. But like, it is one of the ways to illuminate the violences of authoritarianism is
Yeah.
to show that friction between its desire to crush
Yeah.
And the thing it's trying to crush being clearly playful and connective and
Totally.
joyful and
Totally.
unharmful to anything, but only being harmful in a way that it's like ulterior
Yeah.
ways of being
You
harmful.
look insane if you're arresting unicorns.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
You look
Yep.
fragile.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. And I think that, it's another way where it can be really interesting to have those conversations about like the aesthetics and the parts that feel like fun and playful that can maybe sometimes get dismissed as like frivolous or superficial. And actually, I think with a certain lens underneath it, it's some of the most important work there can be.
Yeah. Especially when it is paired with other kinds of activism as well. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Right.
so
Uh,
those of you that joined us today,
oh
oh
my
my gosh,
God.
thank you for
Thank you.
taking time out of
Thank
your
you.
day to do this. It means so much to us.
Yes.
And those that are joining us afterwards in the recording, we want to hear what all you guys think. We're so
Yes.
excited for this to be a conversation. And next week, we'll be back, same time, and we're going to be talking about practical
I
magic
cannot wait.
because it's spooky season and
Oh,
we've got to talk about witches early and often. So,
it's so true. Go have a margarita in honor as you watch, and we will see you then.
see you then. Thanks for being here.